Welcome to the Stateless Standard, where we plunge the golden torch into the murky depths of wartime expediency, illuminating the pacts that history prefers to drown in discretion. Today, we dredge up Project Underworld, the U.S. Navy's clandestine alliance with the American Mafia during World War II. In 1942, with German U-boats prowling the Atlantic like wolves at the fold, the Office of Naval Intelligence turned to the very criminals it once vowed to eradicate, forging a devil's bargain to safeguard the ports. Fishermen as saboteurs, dock bosses as secret agents, it was a marriage of convenience between star-spangled sailors and Sicilian strongmen, born of desperation and sealed in silence. Noble necessity, or the first slippery step on the road to institutionalized corruption? We shall navigate these treacherous waters with factual fidelity and the cynicism that such unholy unions inevitably summon. Hoist the anchor. The tide of revelation rises. Our saga commences in the chill grip of early 1942, as the Axis powers' wolf packs savaged Allied shipping. January alone saw over 20 vessels torpedoed, including a tanker a mere 60 miles from Long Island, close enough to smell the diesel and despair. The U.S. Office of Naval Intelligence, ONI, suspected foul play ashore. American fishing boats, perhaps rum runners idled by Prohibition's end or nests of enemy spies, resupplying these undersea raiders off the coast. The stakes? Catastrophic. New York's 3rd Naval District, spanning the metropolis, New Jersey, and Connecticut, was the Republic's vital artery. Funnel men, munitions, and material to the fronts. Disrupt it, and the war tipped to Hitler. Enter Captain Roscoe McFall, a 40-year naval veteran and the district's chief intelligence officer, tasked with rooting out the rot. But the docks were a lawless labyrinth, a realm where Ivy League ensigns in plain clothes cut comical figures amid the stevedore's sullen stares. These waterfront warriors, hardened by generations of graft and grudge, viewed any badge, federal or otherwise, with the warmth of a harpoon. Mob muscle enforced the omerta. Inquisitive outsiders earned gaff beatings from Union enforcers. McFall's plainclothes patrols yielded naught but echoes. Then came February 9, a $5 million gut punch. At Manhattan's Pier 88, the seized French liner Normandie, rechristened Lafayette and primed to ferry 10,000 troops across the Atlantic in a blistering 4 days, erupted in flames. Workers fled choking smoke as fireboats hosed the inferno, capsizing the behemoth into a 30-degree list. Official verdict? A welder's stray spark. McFall's suspicion: Nazi sabotage, a symbolic gutting of America's mightiest port. With losses mounting, over 100 ships sunk between February and May, the happy time for Kriegsmarine Admiral Karl Donitz, the Navy's moral qualms evaporated. Donitz needed 800,000 tons monthly to starve Britain. He was already at 650,000. Paralyze the ports, and victory was his. Educational interlude. This was no isolated crisis. U-boats, fueled by audacious resupply ops, exploited the novice U.S. Navy's inexperience. Convoy systems lagged, coastal blackouts were spotty. The Normandie's loss wasn't just tonnage, it was morale, a beacon dimmed before it could shine. McFall's dilemma crystallized the wartime calculus: ideals versus imperatives. To pierce the veil of silence, the Navy required insiders who spoke the dialect of deceit, the Mafia, that anti-fascist Hydra Mussolini had failed to behead. The Mafia's antipathy to Il Duce was no secret. Mussolini's purges, bombings, arrests, executions had driven waves of Sicilian exiles to America's shores, birthing La Cosa Nostra's stateside empire. Vito Genovese, that opportunistic chameleon, was the exception. Fleeing a 1937 murder rap, he cozied up to Mussolini with $250,000 for a fascist haul, and hits on critics like Carlo Tresca, earning the kingdom's highest civilian honor. But Genovese was apolitical slime, not the norm. Research revealed the mob as fascism's fiercest foe, their honor scarred by the black shirt's boot. Desperation dictated alliance. On March 7th, McFall huddled with New York DA Frank Hogan, who looped in Rackets Bureau Chief Murray Gurfein. What ensued, detailed in the classified 1954 Herland's report, unearthed in 1977 from Governor Dewey's archives, was dubbed Project Underworld, a 101-page summary of 3,000 pages of testimony on the Navy's mob dalliance. Day-to-day fell to Commander Charles Radcliffe Haffenden, ONE's B-3 unit head, a debonair operative running ops from Times Square's Astor Hotel suites, assembling a rogues gallery of Italian-American agents. Polyglot Lieutenant Anthony Marslow, ex-bootlegger Lieutenant Joseph Treglia for break-ins, safecracker Lieutenant Paul Alfieri, first recruit Joseph Socks Lanza, Luciano family enforcer and tyrant of the Fulton fish market. A 200-pound Sicilian bull with a rap sheet from 1917, homicide, burglary, extortion, Lanza's sobriquet came from socking dissenters. His United Seafood Workers Union gripped the coast from Maine to Florida. A nod from him dumped catches to spike prices or torched the uncooperative. The FBN's Black Book branded him the most accomplished terrorist in labor racketeering. Perfect for ferreting sub-suppliers. Approach via back channels. Hoffenden phoned Lanza's lawyer, Joseph Guerin, for a hush-hush sit-down. Gurfein pled the case, ships sinking off our coast, U-boats refueled somehow. You can find out. Lanza, eyeing leverage amid his extortion trial, leaped. Wiretaps soon hummed with Navy-sanctioned savagery. Assaults, B&Es, whispers of murders. Cynical aside, patriotism, or a get-out-of-jail card wrapped in stars and stripes? The mob's loyalty was as fluid as smuggled hooch. Lanza mobilized, teamed with ex-con Benjamin Benny Espy. They grilled suppliers on bulk buys, then boarded fleets to seed informants. Hoffenden scored no-show union cards, embedding B-3 agents on mackerel runs to Newfoundland. These fishermen became the Navy's vanguard, radioing sightings via ship-to-ship codes, once for good catch, now for wolf-sighted. Lanza and Espy fished personally, netting spies. Treglia's black bag squads, shielded by Lanza's super connections, cracked safes in Manhattan high-rises and a foreign consulate, exposing German rings nationwide. But Lanza hit limits. Brooklyn's docks bowed to Albert Anastasia, the Luciano clan's High Lord executioner, a volcanic temper with a trigger finger itch. West Side Irish peers answered to ILA President Joseph Ryan. Lanza demurred. Only one whip cracked the underworld, imprisoned Vice King Lucky Luciano. Born Salvatore Lucania near Palermo, Charlie Lucky survived a 1929 torture beating to rule New York's rackets. Jailed in 1936 for compulsory prostitution, he orchestrated from Dannemora. Lanza wired the overture. Luciano, sensing empire's expansion, assented for a price. Hoffenden dispatched Lieutenant Alfieri and Marslow to Clinton Prison. Over vending machine coffee, Luciano pledged fealty. His network, 2,000 eyes on the waterfront, would watch for saboteurs. In return, drop charges, cushy transfer, post-war favors. The Navy demurred publicly but played ball. Luciano to Great Meadows Country Club, charges shelved. His tentacles extended. Prostitutes gleaned pillow talk from sailors. Tammany Hall whispers fed troop movements. Sicilian cousins in Palermo, pre-invasion, mapped Axis defenses, aiding Operation Husky's July 1943 triumph. Post-war, Luciano's reward, deportation to Italy, where he rebuilt empires with U.S. blind eyes. The toll? Untold. Wiretaps caught Hoffenden's casual queries. That Brooklyn Bridge thing? Code for kneecapping Harry Bridges, the Red Unionist. Goons obliged, hospitalizing him mid-agitation. Cynicism surges. The Navy, bastion of rectitude, outsourced thuggery to thugs, birthing a precedent where ends sanctified any means. Project Underworld quelled sabotage, cited U-boats, secured invasions, but at what moral mortgage? The Herlands report, buried till 77, chronicled the complicity, a state winking at vice to vanquish vice's distant kin. Skeptical epilogue. Project Underworld endures as archetype of American realpolitik, a pact where the Navy's torch dimmed to mafia candlelight, illuminating paths to power's underbelly. It won the war on the waterfront, yet seeded the military-industrial mob nexus. Kefauver probes in 50, persistent port rackets. Profound in its pragmatism, profane in its precedence. A hierarchy where Uncle Sam doffs cap to Don Corleone whispering just this once, charming in a gangster flick. Calculated to the last torpedo, the harbors hum on. The devils do a cruise. That's our submerged survey of Project Underworld. The Navy's tango with the tentacles of organized crime, danced on the edge of defeat. If this alliance anchored your illusions of wartime purity, subscribe to the Stateless Standard for more unsparing soundings. Comment below. Strategic genius or sovereign surrender? Like, share, and return as we torch another tangle of tactical turpitude. Until then, mind the depths. Stay sovereign, stay stateless, stay free.